Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our April Going Organic webinar series. And this is our last webinar with the invited speakers because next webinar would be 3 of our graduate students will be presenting. I am Dil Thavaraja, a professor of plant and environment sciences at Clemson University, South Carolina. My program focuses on the organic pulse crop breeding for nutritional quality and organic adaptation. Today, our guest speaker is Mr. Doug Moser. Before I introduce the speaker, I would like to thank our generous support from the funders, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, ORAI program, NIFA Foundation program, and South Carolina Department of Agriculture Specialty Crops and the ACRE program, and the USDA ARS and the Food Shot Global. A bit of the housekeeping, please introduce yourself via chat and also send your questions via Q&A. Now let's introduce the speaker. Mr. Doug Moser, he is one of my dear friends and one of the great advocates for our pulse crops in the US as well as the whole world. The Moser family immigrated from the Alps of Switzerland to the Pacific Northwestern United States in the mid-1800s. Doug Moser is the fourth generation to till the fertile valleys of the Pacific Northwest Palouse region. So he is basically originated there in the beautiful Palouse region. And Doug owns more than 100,000 domestic acres of chickpea. And also he owns a very big company that produce different types of food products. And he planned to replace the potatoes with the chickpeas. So we are so excited to hear all his experiences with our growers, researchers, students, because this is like a different experience. You actually hear from a grower as well as an entrepreneur, also like a highly advocate for our pulse crops. And we are lucky as breeders, we are lucky to have people like Doug helping our programs and get this beautiful crop in the country. Thank you, Doug.
Dill is very gracious in her introduction. I am just a farmer. I learned years ago to be what you are. And working with researchers like Dr. Dill, various others, Dr. George Vandenmark out here, USDA ARS, is a legume breeder, is very, very important that we collaborate. And one of my goals is to get chickpea production back on the East Coast. And as you know, farmers are very conservative, slow to change. We were blessed to be one of the first chickpea growers about 40 years ago. They came to the Pacific Northwest from a dear friend of mine who just passed away, Mr. George Brocky, when peas were the primary rotation crop for wheat is king. We're dryland farming and having a tough time with peas economically. So we started growing these garbanzos, and they're still a great, profitable rotation crop. In fact, so much so that our philosophy on our farm is chickpeas are our primary crop and wheat is now our rotation crop. But so my presentation this morning is primarily about chickpeas, although all legumes I think are good. But one of the really unique things about chickpeas is they are neutral in color and flavor. And keep that in mind as the culinary world now can make meat alternatives out of peas, out of soybeans. Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger, companies like that you've heard of. You're seeing Bonza pasta, which is chickpeas or garbanzos, same plant, made into pasta. And it sells at Costco and various places. One of the really cool things is, again, as an alternative to, say, potatoes or gluten products, it cooks in about half the time. So all of a sudden, where we have to actually, I'll get into this as we go through the presentation. So starting out, chickpeas just leave a very light footprint on our planet, and the new generation is looking for better ecological foods and definitely more healthy foods. The millennials and Z generation are demanding that. Large companies like Nestle Foods, the largest company in the world, PepsiCo, who I've worked with extensively, know that information and are plan fully to capitalize on it. Um, but it's sustainable agriculture. We address climate change with products, crops like chickpeas. It's a plant-based protein. It takes harmful gases out of the air, converts them to nitrogen, puts them in our land. So it checks all those, I guess, benchmarks, if you will, for what the new consumer is. Oops, I'm sorry, is asking for. We really are in a global food revolution. Unbeknownst to a lot of people behind the scenes, these large companies are looking for better alternatives. PepsiCo has identified the chickpea. They've specifically approved one of our proprietary varieties. We're working with Dr. Vandenmark out here at Washington State and Dr. Dill there at Clemson for even better varieties that are lower in fat. And our approach is from field to fork. Traceability, I think, is huge as we get into the digital world, which I'm that old generation now. But consumers can go to that QR code, click onto it, and trace that product that they're about to feed their families right back to the family farm. They know everything that was put on it. And I believe that is the right approach, transparency. We are feeding people. We've always fed people, but they have a right to know what they're eating and actually demanding it. So, again, our approach is from field to fork. We also capitalize, and I bring up that word because for this to work, for farmers to grow more chickpeas, for us to grow as many acres as soybeans, which are man-made, chickpeas date back to the beginning of time, we need to be able to sell them. So local maybe is a marketing term, but I also believe going right back to the family farm is important as we think about traceability and that kind of thing. Again, if we're going to sell chickpea products, chickpea alternative products on the East Coast, I'd like them growing on the East Coast. More economical as you think of transportation and carbon sequestration and all those types of things. So again, the history a little bit, just going back to 1980, my family started developing chickpeas. Farmers slow to change. It took 40 years for them to get to the point where we are going to almost plant 1 million acres in the United States this year from a meager 5 acres that I grew in 1980, thanks to Mr. George Brocky. And you see there about 1995, chickpea producer for Brocky. I got bored in about the year 2000 and too much driving or sitting on a tractor and a lot of time to think. So we developed a way to produce chickpeas fresh green. And I won't go into a lot of detail there, but you'll see down at the bottom, 2000, 2001, where we pioneered the garden green garbanzo. If you looked up Fresh Nature Foods, my son-in-law runs that company now. Again, I'm really proud to say that we've progressed to almost 1 million acres, but we have a long way to go. They grow 70 million acres in India. They grow 70 million acres of soybeans in the United States, more corn than that in the United States. And this is a better alternative that can be used as an ingredient in products, for example, like Fritos corn chips. It'd be Fritos chickpea chips, but they look the same, taste the same because of that neutral color and flavor The culinary world can do amazing things with them. So again, we need those large companies. We need Nestle, Costco, Yum Brands, which is gosh, Taco Bell, Applebee's, Kentucky Fried Chicken. PepsiCo, again, is working with chickpeas exclusively. The USDA school and lunch program wouldn't buy our green garbanzos because they were 4 times the cost of green peas, knowing, even though it's touted that we feed our children good, nutritious foods, the lawmakers, Congress, demand so much food in each category, starchy or potatoes. Well, our starch is RS2 resistant starch, which lowers the glycemic index, and we can make a tater tot. Interesting enough, so they buy really based on the dollar. Again, it comes back to the almighty dollar. And because we need to rehydrate our garbanzos, all of a sudden we can compete price wise with a potato. Um, they really are a great pulse. Deep tap roots, all of our production, probably 95, maybe 99%, I don't know, don't quote me, of our production is dry land. We don't use any fertilizer. I've never used an insecticide for insects. They are all non-GMO. Um, and obviously, again, as I said, they're a versatile ingredient. So I believe in organic, even though I am a commercial, and I'm embarrassed to say I've used more pesticides and chemicals than you can imagine, semi-loads. And it's done around the world, and it's a different family for every crop, and we rotate crops around the world on every acre, every hectare grown. And so imagine the witch's brew that is in our soils. Different families, tens tens of thousands of chemicals that are in our soils. So in the FDA's infinite wisdom, they say they're registered products and they're safe to use, and I just don't buy that. But so our Palouse region, Dill spoke of, there's a aerial photo. What's unique is the rolling hills. That's probably obviously a springtime shot, but you can see the contrast in colors, and that's all about 11 million acres of farmland. That's where it's located in Idaho, eastern Washington. It dips into Montana and Oregon a little bit, but that is the Palouse country. Those are counties that are showing there. We are located right on the border of Latah and Nez Perce County in the heart of the Palouse. Areas where we have grown around the world, on every continent outside of Antarctica. Um, I had to do that for consistent supply for the green garbanzo. Um, they're a sustainable product. They're naturally regenerative agriculture. One of the things I love is I don't have to sell them; they sell themselves. Um, they will sell themselves in the food system, and like I say, we are going through a food revolution behind the scenes. You will see healthier food. You will see alternatives that are better for the environment. Again, um, they are regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and one of the lowest carbon footprints out there. Again, this just shows some of the highlights of the chickpea. Um, Lower picture again is part of the Palouse, but they reduce harmful gases from an environmental aspect. The taproot allows water to percolate through the soil, natural purification process. Um, They're an organic growth stimulant. Health wise, again, one of the big things is the RS2 resistant starch, which lowers blood sugar and ultimately the glycemic index for 30% of our population is diabetic or pre diabetic, which is almost terrifying. One of the other things I might add that we in agriculture don't like to address is our pH is lowering globally on every acre of agricultural tillable land. And that's because of the use of commercial fertilizers. We will get to the point where down around 5 pH, we won't be able to grow crops. We've lowered it by almost 1.5 here in the Palouse since World War II. So these don't require nitrogen. They don't require commercial fertilizer. And therefore, again, it addresses something that is becoming a crisis behind the scenes. They use very little water. They use 20% of the water of a potato crop. So irrigated farmers love them because they're allocated so much water and they're able to use that excess water on other crops, more demanding crops. Um, and it makes it feasible for high value crops that are growing more on irrigated land. Um, this shows their carbon footprint in contrast to other fruits and vegetables, meat, chicken, and starchy foods. Um, really like around 7% compared to all the way up to 25%. Um, Carbon sequestration is recognized as a key for removing carbon from the Earth's atmosphere. Um, Again, kind of goes back to the water. And I apologize, I'm not real organized here with I'm a farmer. That's always been my excuse. But chickpeas save enough water on 100 acres compared to potatoes, enough water to fill Yankee Stadium, if you can imagine that, on 100 acres of irrigated land. Um, Greenhouse gas emissions, that's one of the lowest plants known. Chickpeas date back, they've carbon dated them 10,000 years. I believe they're one of the first flora on Earth for a reason. Again, they speak for themselves. They're plant based. There's a little photocopy of our chickpea harvest last year. Um, yeah, and it's a big operation, but my nephew manages it. It's mind-boggling for me. We harvest about 2,500 acres a day. Um, those are massive machines that they run nowadays, and I'm a little bit in awe, but they spoil me when I go out to help them for harvest. So again, I come back to the food revolution. This trend is happening, and the USDA dietary guidelines just made a recommendation um, to move from 1.5 cups to 3 cups of chickpeas per week. Um, that may sound like a lot, but that recommendation directly impacts our school systems, government institutions, and all the military take their cues from the U.S. dietary guideline recommendation. Again, if you go back 3 cups, they're recommending up to 3 cups. Mexico's usage is 3 to 7 cups. Denmark's usage of chickpeas is at 3 cups. So it's not unreasonable. And as a primary protein, again, because of the culinary world being able to do amazing things, um, it's coming. And chickpeas are great. In contrast to peas are great, but they're almost a pungent, that might not be the term, but they're almost a bitter flavor. So they need to use masking agents. The advantage of, say, yellow peas is that they're a quarter of the price of a chickpea. But again, because we have to add so much water to rehydrate to make different food products, all of a sudden the chickpea becomes competitively priced. And so it is an ancient solution to present day health issues. This addresses obesity. Again, it's saying 42% of the adult population is considered obese, 38% considered diabetic or pre-diabetic. I think I said 30%, but in any case, in my mind, it's a crisis and it's something that needs to be addressed, just as critical as our environment. So we're making a lot of different products in mind. You see French fries up on the right. They make a mash out of the chickpeas, and that's an extruded product. Um, Cooks in half the time, is very appealing to QSRs, quick serve restaurants like McDonald's, Taco Bell. You see the tater tots chicken nugget alternative, McDonald's hash brown down on the bottom is the same as a tater tot, a little larger. Snacks up above. They can be seasoned however you like. But again, it comes back to commercializing these things if we're really going to grow more. Sort of a chicken or an egg thing, but again, different products. You see rice and pictures of rice, and which is an extruded product like spaghetti, just cut a little shorter. Different things the culinary world can make, and they're super nutritious. And again, if you were to taste these, you really don't know the difference, other than them cooking in half the time. That fact is money to a QSR. Again, we can use the aquafaba or the water where we boil the bean to rehydrate to make different dairy products. Very interesting to companies like Chobani and the large milk and ice cream companies. Um, high protein milk. We're working with Dr. Dill on some intellectual property that she developed on organic protein extraction, and we will have to add starch to make these products, is where that will come into play, generating capital for research and all that kind of thing. Again, unfortunately, the almighty dollar dictates where we go. My hope is that we will rival soybeans someday in North America alone, which is 70 million acres. It is growing. This was a sensory test that we did, and some of the comments in green there from different consumers across the country compared to an Ore-Ida tater tot or protein tots, which you see there. They loved them. Um, where it shows extremely new, or definitely would buy, probably would buy 91%. That's off the charts, frankly, and unbelievable. If a new food product comes on that a company, say like PepsiCo, is testing, they all do these sensory tests. If they get a 30% rating, it's worth looking at compared to a age-old product like a tater tot. 67% definitely would buy, 91% probably would buy. So frankly, that's a little hard to explain, but numbers don't lie. Um, Again, ice cream and yogurt, you can see the nutritional benefits, non-soy, good source of protein and dietary fiber. Again, I come back to the carbohydrates, which I believe that RS2 resistant starch, lowering the glycemic index, is more important than any of them. But then again, it addresses eco-friendly and sustainable regenerative agriculture. Again, just some dairy options. So obviously, it's a meatless plant-based protein. We're really trying to stay out of that meat market and focus more on plant-based alternatives. And the market that we are addressing, the potato market. But if you combine, well, I think that comes in later. The potato, I'm sorry, dairy and I think soybean market, it's over $200 billion. So it's a massive market that we're targeting. Again, unfortunately, you come back to talking about dollars, but that's what's going to drive everything. Again, just benefits the farmlands benefit from enriching the soil, and a great rotation crop, the best I've ever used. Um, Consumers like them for a lot of reasons. Check all the boxes that the new generation is demanding. So here's the point I was talking about: an accumulative $522 billion market, uh, and again checking the boxes. So the dairy, corn, and potato market combined totals that. So even if we got 1% of that market, it's massive. Um, Fits this current food revolution model. So I believe very much as Chief Joseph, who is native to the Palouse country, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children, and our children are the ones that are going to be impacted if we don't do something now to address these things. And obviously, I'm a little biased toward farmers and ranchers, but so that's it. Dr. Dill?
That is wonderful. So let's start the discussion because we have 10 more minutes today. Thank you for the beautiful presentation, Doug. I know you're a farmer, but you are more than that. Uh, You are like the awesome farmer that with all the science in it. Um, we have a couple of questions from the audience, but before we start there, like I saw all your like the food products that you develop out of your company. And they have like a very less amount of sugar, less than 1 gram of sugar. That is kind of very impressive. So how they taste actually? They taste um is it good or like
The the different products that we made?
yeah, like the
Yeah.
ice cream and
No,
milk and
they are phenomenal. Not from my point of view. I mean, my grandkids love them. Um, it's it's something that, I had one last slide. Is my share still up?
you can share if you want.
I'll just share it while I'm talking real quick. But um, I was going to go to the next slide. Nope, the next two down. Not sure what I'm doing here. Um, they taste great though. They are you wouldn't know the difference. And
Okay.
that's key because in order to sell those products, taste is probably number one.
Mhm.
If you're going to go buy something for your children, it looks good, but you take it home and they won't eat it. But if you take it home and they love it, like they do tater tots, you're probably going to go buy more, especially if you know the benefits that you're feeding them. I I'm excited about it. And really I'm nothing special, Dr. Dill, but I really want to make this world a little better place for my grandchildren. And I believe, much like you, I believe in organic, but I'll be really transparent. In commercial agriculture, it's not reasonable. We only know how to farm with chemicals since World War II. But interesting enough, if you could, my theory is if you combine modern technology, GPS, artificial intelligence, all that thing that we're starting to use in agriculture, with all the knowledge that my grandfather and forefathers had prior to 1940, World War II, we can do this. Organic food prior to 1940, dating back to the beginning of time, was called food. And we can do this. And one of the things we're actually working on right now with my nephew is a weed zapper. And we're going to put it in a little drone where it actually is a bolt of lightning or a bolt of electricity that burns the weed back far enough so the crop can canopy. And if we can do that, we can make chickpeas organic because I've never had to use any other chemicals on them. So there's ways to do it. That's modern technology.
Yeah, you are amazing. I learned so much from you, Doug, for that. Thank you. And then just a little bit, can you explain, because you are the founder of the Garbanzo Green, can you little explain to the audience, because that's the amazing green chickpeas that I tasted in my life. So, but it's not available that you can buy from the grocery store. So if you can little explain, because quite a bit of people asked me about that.
The green garbanzo, we developed some intellectual property primarily on the process and machinery to harvest it. And it's basically just a chickpea or garbanzo that's harvested early. That's also a big advantage to the farmer, to the grower, because garbanzos have a long growing season, about 140 days, 100 to 140, depending where you grow them. But these are about a 80-day crop. And I got the idea in a bar room actually from a gentleman I was sitting beside from Mexico that they consumed these hand picked. Again, it wasn't commercially feasible to hand pick chickpeas, and they were so good, fresh green. Um, So we developed that business. I partnered with a Canadian company out of Toronto, and we commercialized them. And we did have them. We were selling them retail, Dr. Dill, but recently my son-in-law runs that company. He went back to all food service. So I think Cisco carries them. I know Food Service of
Yeah.
America carries them, U.S. Foods. But anyway,
Yeah,
they're
you can buy from Cisco. So I just because it's the best chickpeas that anybody like to taste. Like you can add in a salad or you can add in a smoothie, anything. It's the most amazing green garbanzo. So okay, I'm going to go back to the questions that come in from the audience. There's a lot of questions, Doug, you're going to answer because you can say that I'm a farmer. I don't know. These are all your questions.
if I want to dodge a question,
Right.
I've never I've never been one to do that. But
Right. So
see, I see Miss Hubbard is asking about ask kind of blight.
yes, yes. So I wanted to, before come to that question, I have
Yeah,
one before that to ask you. Where is organic agriculture heading, and what do you think about all sustainability for the future?
I think agriculture or organic production is heading in the right direction, albeit very slowly, because frankly, Dr. Dill, you don't have the support of commercial agriculture. We, my generation, the baby boomers, we do not know how to grow crops. We don't know how to feed our families to make enough income for a livelihood with organic production. That's the hard, cold truth. Big companies like ConAgra use it as a marketing ploy. I have been out on ConAgra's 100 Circles Ranch, which is literally 100 circles, and they will break out a circle and tell the world they've got organic production. And it's minuscule. And yeah, they sell a little here and there, but we as an industry in agriculture do not know how to do it yet. But I believe it's going in the right direction with AI. We're going to be able to do it with methods. I mean, these space age methods to me that I marvel at. I think it's going to be an accelerated reality. And I believe from a farmer's point of view, take this for what it's worth, not a doctor. And we've had these discussions about I believe farm chemicals are what's behind cancer. Many of them are sodium-based growth regulators, and they mutate cells. I think, as a farmer, my mind goes, I think cancer is mutated cells, and we are what we eat. Not, it doesn't affect all of us in the same way. My dad smoked till he was 95 years old, but my friend died at 22 from smoking. So bodies metabolize things differently. And
Right.
farm chemicals are no exception. So I believe in organic, and I think it's headed in the right direction.
I'm so glad that you talk about it because we have so many like problems introducing chickpeas here, but we are getting successful. It's not like the Palouse area or the Midwest, like South Carolina has a different weather, but now I see light, and I think we can bring the chickpeas here in the organic way. So that I'm going to lead to Michelle's question because she's the pathologist from Canada and she's the expert. So her question is Ascochyta blight an issue for your operation? If so, how would you manage it? Being organic, how would you manage it? So she's asking, disease is often managed with the multiple fungicides in conventional production. So how we can move forward with the organic agriculture? So this is like a biggest question.
And it's difficult. It would be difficult to manage it, Michelle. We do have some Ascochyta blight problems because of our climate and our weather here in the Pacific Northwest. Um, Fungicides are commonly used in conventional production, and 99.9% of ours is conventional. I've grown organic production down on the border between California and Oregon with success. Garbanzos. We don't have to worry about insects, so that's a huge um, advantage. And we would do organic. I think the primary thing is geographically. Even in Canada, I think there are different fields or farms that could do it. say a south sloping farm. We could do it by planting dates. We may give up a little bit on yield, but organic is double the price. So, but farmers and Dr. Dill, my advice to you, even though I know you're all about organic and I am too, when you encourage production, just do start out with commercial production. Farmers are slow to change. Organic is terrifying to them, truthfully, because they say to themselves, "Oh, that's great, but I can't feed my family trying to do organic." We don't have the knowledge to do it. My grandfather did, but we've lost those methods dating back to the beginning of time. So we're able to do it. I think we always encourage it, but I think we have to be realistic. And that's a great question, Michelle. I think you do it geographically and with planting dates. And there may be some organic fungicides out there. I didn't use any. I know there are organic seed treatments, which is another unique aspect of the chickpea that I won't get into right now. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah, there are some organic pesticides that we could use, but I don't use any. So far, we are managing it. It's depending on what type you use, Daisy or Kabuli. Daisy is the best one without having Ascochyda to grow in organic. So more coming, and I need your help, Michelle. So we'll talk about it. And then the greatest pathologist, Dr. Weidong Chang, was in here too. So they all going to work and make this excellent crop that going to resist the Ascochyda blight. And thank you all for your work. And then there's two more questions I wanted to go through because we still have time. Does your current worldwide chickpea production areas include humid, high rainfall areas? If so, are chickpea diseases are more prevalent and more of the production problems in such areas? So the question is the worldwide, the experiments that you do, are those areas like humid, like South Carolina, or high rainfall areas? And what is the disease incident? This is from Dr. Shaib.
yes, 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 and yes. We have produced in areas like that, and diseases are more prevalent, but they're manageable. Again, you may have to budget in fungicides. Planting dates are critical. Um, I think Dr. Dill has proven that you can grow chickpeas in humid areas. They're very adaptable, as you know, they're a dry season legume. I've grown them in all kinds of different soils, on all kinds of different lands, in all kinds of different climates. So um, they are more prevalent. It comes down the way you deal with diseases are more prevalent, and the way you manage them is by planting date, geography, and I think and fungicide. The big thing is the Ascochyda. I saw a question about Ascochyda up above that we can get into, but
Yeah. So, Doug, there's a lot of students here. So, with your experience related to the high humidity and the rainfall, which one you think daisies or kabulis are best? And also, I want to know your green garbanzo. Are those daisies or kabulis?
they're all kabuli.
They
There's
are
a
kabulis.
large kabuli and small kabuli. We grow both here in the Pacific Northwest. They go to a different market. And you bring up a good point. Another management tool is variety. Some varieties are more susceptible. And it comes back to those breeding programs with working hand in hand with Dr. Vandenmark and Dr. Theravarja, coming up with better and better varieties. We need a short season legume. The pea world, I remember the days when peas were, what's the word? They grew and grew and grew. What's the word, Dr. Dale? Um,
Indeterminate?
Yes, indeterminate. And all peas were indeterminate. They would bloom and bloom and bloom until they ran out of moisture. The green pea industry developed determinate varieties where at a certain point in time they exploded in bloom, made pods, quit, and believe it or not, we would get we they doubled the yield. So we need determinate varieties and we need short season, which would also help address those issues. We need the plant breeding programs.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I got away from what was your question, real quick?
No, that's you answered that. But with the high humidity areas, with your experience, do you think Kabulis or daisies are the best?
It just doesn't, I don't think it matters. I think it comes down to the variety. I've seen varieties of Desi's, I think, are historically known as better.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, you would know better than I. Dr. Dill,
It's no. It's just in this season, like Tristan planted so much of chickpeas, but none of the kabulis were came, but all the daisies are up and beautiful. So, and the organic. So it's just like you said, the weather, location, variety, and all of these things matter.
all
Um,
varietal. We had a real problem with Ascochyta back in the 80s when we first started. And actually, Dr. Kaiser and Muehlbauer went to Syria and Turkey and gathered wild germplasm, which are the grandfathers of all varieties today, and bred in Ascochyta resistance. So
Exactly. And then Michelle also made the point that intercropping. Thank you, Michelle, for that comment. This is the last question, so I'm not going to keep everyone. We have 4 more minutes left. Um, I'm a vegetarian and I'm buying plant-based alternatives, but it is really expensive in comparison of meat. Yeah. What do you think about the chickpea alternatives on this point? Do you think you will be able to do alternatives with the price same as meat?
no question, yes. Um, because we have to rehydrate, we basically dilute the price. We have to rehydrate with water. Water's pretty inexpensive. And the culinary world, oh gosh, what was the name of it? There was a company out of the UK. I was at a global food symposium with the Culinary Institute of America, and they were making chicken, the best chicken breast I've ever eaten, made out of peas. And yes, it is expensive, but obviously you've noticed the cost of meat and how it's gone up with everything else. But it just makes us more and more competitive. And there is no question, you're getting the protein, you're getting a whole bunch of other side benefits that meat doesn't offer. So again, and then from the environmental aspect, um, again, there's a lot of issues with dairy and cattle. Unfortunately, we grow a lot of cattle, but these again, I want to emphasize, we're talking about our alternatives, not substitutes. Meat will never go away, but we're going to offer an alternative. It might be a side with your steak, but or it could be a primary entree. But anyway, yeah, I think we will be competitive. We already are competitive price wise, and frankly, a much
Yeah.
better. So
Thank you so much, Doug. And it tastes better too, the chickpea stuff. I love it. And I just wanted to thank you from my bottom of my heart because it is so important for us, organic chickpeas, sustainable chickpeas, sustainable pulsars. And this discussion was very healthy. And thank you so much because you are our last guest speaker. And our next webinar going to be with my grad students. Actually, only two name here, but we have three. These are the three senior PhD students. Amod Madhura Perumage, working about digital agriculture. Sonia Salaria, she's a senior candidate working on lentil breeding. And also Mark Dempsey, he works on breeding for disease resistance. So I hope all these pathologists, students, to see everyone on May 7th. And thank you, Doug, again. And I hope to catch up with you soon. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
thank you. Bye bye.